It's there.
Welcome to Meat Pies and Shots 4. I'm Johnny Compton.
I'm Dan Tomlinson.
And we are here to talk our own brand of rubbish as per usual. We're trying something a little bit different. I know we've messed about with the format of the last couple of weeks, but bear with us. We're still new to this. We're going to have a crack at doing it all in one go again. So we'll see how we get on. It's easier for us to upload as well then. We're only simple folk. We're going to start off Leeds v Cass.
What? First of all, why are Rugby League fans moaning about something that brings excitement to the game? It's going to happen about 10, well, not even 10 times a season. I know it's happened twice already. We're 8 rounds in, so we don't need to spit our dummy out over golden point. For me, it's great. If you're thinking you're watching as a neutral, you're just seeing a 45 metre drop goal from Brad Dwyer to win a game. That's excitement. So hopefully the media team can play that clip now as part of the promos for the next few weeks of Sky games. I'll just start on that note. For me, golden point for me, it's a great new thing we've got in our game, and it's something we should cherish rather than spit our dummies out over.
I mean, obviously we was going to talk about Leeds v Cass, but I'll just add to your point a little bit there that my most enjoyable moment so far this season was Mark Sneyd kicking that first golden point against Wigan.
Absolutely.
I have to temper that by saying, had we been on the wrong end of it, I'd hate it, I think. Because it's a horrible way to lose, but a brilliant way to win. But for the neutral, it adds excitement.
And that's what we want, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's what
we're forever bagging the RFL as fans.
Rugby League's always trying to get new people involved in the game, isn't it? And this is a way to do it for me, because you're creating excitement, you're creating something that people go, oh, wow, that was brilliant, I can't wait for next week now.
And it is a talking point. Brad Dwyer's drop goal, the beauty of it, is a talking point. And social media was awash with people promoting that and talking about it, and that can only be a positive thing. It was an interesting one, because had Cass kicked their final goal, which was a very kickable goal, or had they taken their opportunities in terms of kicking a field goal at the back end of the game, then we wouldn't have ever got to that point. Also, I think they did have a perfectly legitimate field goal ruled out, because I didn't see Liam Watts move his direction or alter his trajectory of his running at all when Brad Dwyer, again, was the player getting off the line, ran into him and fell over. And
he didn't move his feet, did he? He sort of moved his shoulder, towards one side. Yeah. But it was nothing malicious.
No. He braced himself.
Exactly, braced himself. If you don't brace that, you could argue that someone will just run for him and he gets put on his ass. Yeah. So I think it's Liam Watts in it, and we all know what Liam Watts' reputation is like at LFC. Let's just penalise him because it's and certain players do have those reputations where they will get penalised in areas where other players wouldn't.
He's a big bloke as well, isn't he? I mean, it's difficult to miss him. I think Dwyer knew what he was doing when he ran into him.
Oh, absolutely. And this is getting so often in Super League now, milking to get penalties, and it comes from coaches. Coaches tell Super League players to milk penalties and, make a deal of it to try and get yourself up the field.
On that note, actually, what I will say with this game, and whilst players were milking penalties, and that was a penalty that we're talking about was given that probably shouldn't have been, I think on the whole, Ben Failer gave the best refereeing performance in this game that I've seen all season from any referee. There was multiple occasions where the acting halves tried to milk a penalty, tried to fall over the player into it, and he just waved play on, and that was music to my ears.
Yeah.
We went, we'll come on to the second game, but we saw a performance from Robert Hicks the night after. Now, Robert Hicks in no way, shape or form affected the result of that game. Mm-hmm. But he refereed in a different way, and he called a couple of those penalties, where people dived in, one for Hull, one for Warrington. Hats off to Ben Failer in the Leeds Cass game. Thought he refed it really well. Definitely a tale of two halves there. And Leeds, they got to that 65-minute point and melted away, didn't they?
Did you credit Cass there, though?
Well,
they say attitude and all that. I mean,
Cass got it wrong, didn't they, first half? And I think Powell pretty much admitted that by making the alterations at half time. They started with Milner at hooker and McShane at 7, and got in.
White did it?
And Leeds were comfortable. They got in at half time. They tweaked it. They brought the young kid Turner on to play fullback. They moved Matautia into the halves on the right edge to partner Truman, and they put McShane back to 9. and then they looked a much more dangerous side with McShane dominating from the back of the ruck. It'll be interesting to see how they cope over the next couple of weeks now that he's missing. The fact that he got banned after I put my tip in and backed him this week, I'm a little bit
a little bit sorry about that.
Yeah. Well, let's see what happens.
What do we make of Leeds then? Because getting into a lead was pretty commendable for them, given the run, the start of Super League they've had. But then not to see that game out, I know they're winning golden points, so it don't necessarily matter. But will that be a concern for Dave Fairner?
No kicking game. I've said all along, there's no dominant 7 there. There's no dominant halfback to control it. Marler's missing for them this week, and that might actually end up being a blessing.
Well, Lollahere's back, isn't he?
Yeah, they'll play Lollahea and Sutcliffe together, and while they're not going to win a comp, they're probably a more steady partnership than Marler. It doesn't solve the immediate problem, though, because there's still no long kicking game there for them, and there's no real game management or nous to get them about.
What about Thursday night then? Leeds Rhinos in a genuine relegation battle with Hull Kingston Rovers.
I wish 2 teams could go down.
That's like picking which man you want to sleep with your missus, isn't it?
Well, it is, isn't it? It's like which red-headed stepchild is your favourite?
Yeah. Neither, yeah. But yeah, I think definite concerns for Leeds still. They're still a long way off being able to compete with anything in Super League. They might beat a couple of bottom teams. They might go to London and win. They might beat Huddersfield or Rovers, but beyond that, you still see them struggling.
They've got a marquee player who's sat in the stands because on performances they're not picking him. Yeah, those other players must be sat there looking at it saying, "Hang on a minute, how much money is he on? Compared to me?" And he doesn't even have to play.
Do you reckon? Well, obviously we'll come on to Hull now, and it's a good place to start that. Adam Pearson is not a fan of marquee players, yet a marquee player in Blake Austin absolutely tore Hull FC apart on Friday. Leeds have got 3. There's that performing. Obviously Warrington's in Austin is performing, so could you argue maybe there's some scope to what Pearson says about them?
I sort of, it's like anything, it's down to the individual and it's down to your group of players, and if you build the right level of camaraderie within a club, then I don't think having a marquee player particularly matters. If it's the right guy, if he comes in and is humble and he turns up and he shows that he is that good, then other players probably won't have much of a problem with it. It's when they turn up and they think they're Billy Big Balls and then they don't put it in or they don't produce the results on the pitch. That's when people start to ask questions. It's much easier to be a marquee player in a winning team. And arguably, he was coming into a successful team anyway. He's the icing on the cake. And there's 2 scenarios where I think a marquee player can work. We did it at Hull FC with Frank Pritchard going back a couple of years ago when we had to completely revolutionise our team and bring in a host of new players. Now, we signed Frank Pritchard, then on the back of that signing, we also picked up the likes of Sika Manu, Carlos Tumavavi, Mahe Fanoa, and it did transform our fortunes. After it was noticeable that after a year, because on the pitch, right, Frank had his moments and he was good, but he was at the back end of his career. His biggest impact was probably off the pitch with us. And I think we recognised that going into his second year, we probably couldn't justify that sort of salary on a player that's not going to have a huge impact on the team or as big an impact on the team as we probably expected on the field. But because of how successful he was off the field and what I'd liken him to how he was with fans to Jackson Hastings this year with Salford, is that he brought people together, and that was, you can't sort of question that. You can't place a value on that. So he served his purpose, but it almost served his purpose after a year. There's an argument that we were a bit too ruthless, but he went back to the Eels. Everybody I think was pretty much happy enough at the conclusion. The other scenario is how Warrington have done it, in that they've already built a successful team and they just need a bit extra to get them over the line. But it has to be somebody who's going to really add something to the team where they've identified a gap, identified a hole and brought them in. My personal opinion has always been all season that Blake Austin isn't necessarily what they need. However, he was outstanding on Friday night and ripped us apart, looked every inch a marquee player, every inch an NRL player. But that was in perfect conditions, on a decent night, on a flat track where we didn't turn up, we were off, and Warrington were on the front foot. His pack completely dominated. Where it will be interesting is to see whether he can drag them over the line in a game where the other team are bang at it, it's chucking it down, it's horrible, it's nasty, it's rough and tumble, and they hit a bit of adversity. And that's the test for me, to see whether as a marquee player, he has enough about him to make the difference in that sort of game. Only time will tell.
I think it's a fair analogy, that, and cause the problem is with the marquee player in Blake Austin's case, he's coming in on a hefty salary. He knows that he's got to deliver every week, and the minute he doesn't, that's when he'll get questioned, and that's when we'll see him. We'll see the tough side to his game if he can handle that pressure. And he could argue in the NRL he didn't, because that's why he's in Super League now. If he could handle that pressure in the NRL, he wouldn't be at Warrington Wolves, he'd still be at Canberra, ripping it up in the NRL. Ironically, a couple of seasons ago, Canberra were a playoff team, and he was really good. But last year when Canberra, they didn't finish in the 8, he was anonymous most weeks. He was, nothing short of dog shit, really. So he's come. That's why he's in Super League. But you got to credit Warrington as a team as well. Darryl Clark out of 9 is absolutely outstanding. Just so quick out the box. In the middles, they were awesome. Chris Hill, Mike Cooper. They absolutely dominated, Taylor and Peer to start with, and they didn't improve for it. It carried on, and on the edges, you've got Ben Maddox-Masilla coming on, and who's running through people. Jack Hughes on the other flank. Ben Curry. Great to see Ben Curry back in the game as well, especially from an England and Great Britain point of view. Obviously, you've started to smile there. I wonder if that's anything to do with Wembley and a certain slip and tackle by Danny Houghton. But yeah, they're good all over the field, Warrington. Right now, they're the front runners, and rightly so, with St Helens. And it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Will them two place an emphasis on finishing first? And if they do, then we could get something similar to what we got in the Premier League now in football with Liverpool and Man City. Imagine if we had that sort of running between them two. Who really wants to finish first? Because you do get. For the dog better player, yeah. For the dog, I think it's relevant now because the higher you finish, the easier the route is to Old Trafford.
I'm gonna jump back a little bit to Friday's game though. I'm gonna say we're rightly giving plaudits to Warrington and saying how good they were. I do think it was a bit of a perfect storm. It was a scenario where we had a short turnaround after playing away at London on a 3G pitch. We were playing reasonably busted. We were missing a few players. We were missing more. We had 2 or 3 playing who probably shouldn't have been, and that was because we were down to a few. There's an argument that we could have given a couple of us a run, and we talked about it. And I know last week on Meat Pies and Shots I had a rant about don't get Danny Langtry in the team.
You're not going back on it already, are you?
I said on Friday night it might have actually not been a bad idea. So what do I know?
It was more to do with other areas.
Yeah.
For me.
We said fit, weren't they?
Yeah, they weren't fit. No, we also said put round pegs in. Round nose, but Hakeem Melody, we know you can't trust him to play anything other than wing in Super League because he's unreliable and it was a target. Defensively, there was so many holes in Melody and Warrington exploited that. Yeah. It was all over the place. He just didn't have a clue how to handle anything that was thrown at him.
The key there was, and then this is the perfect storm. I think it showed how Warrington red hot. Everything came off for them, everything they did, and the game plan was perfect. They came out and they targeted Hakeem Melody early doors, and it paid dividends for them. Where we contributed to it was that we got our numbers wrong defensively on each side throughout the game.
That's obviously down to fullback.
It was down to your fullback, and it shows how valuable Jamie Shaw is to us. And any time we've looked solid, it's off the back of. Whilst he isn't the one who's making 50, 60 tackles a la Danny Houghton every week. He's the one that's marshalling that defence, that's making sure that you're numbered up correctly, that you've got...
Is that a good thing, Danny Houghton making 50 tackles
a
week? I've questioned it for years. You get people that are absolutely obsessed with stats, and I call them people that know F4, because you can't base a person's performance on numbers, and Houghton making 50, 60 tackles a game, for me, has affected his role in Hull FC's attack, and ironically
that many tackles because he's targeted, because he's a passive defender.
Well, people think we'd rather run at Danny Houghton or do at Gareth Ellis, Scott Taylor, C. Camaro. It's obviously
because of his size, you're going to land on your front. You're going to go over the top. In terms of his size, he's incredibly strong and he tackles well above his weight.
But he does do too much work. Even like when he's not run at, he'll still be second man in, third man. He'll do the chopping. He'll also do the retreating. A lot of times when Houghton's in the tackle, you've got that third man who's running back 10 metres. That'll always be Houghton, and that's affecting, in my opinion, his energy in attack. And sometimes we see it. At Wigan a few weeks ago, Houghton was brilliant, but then there's also games where he's anonymous, and then young Jez Litton comes on and he could present a strong argument that Litton is arguably the more dynamic threat from hooker. I don't want to discredit Houghton because he's played over 300 games for FC and he's undoubtedly a club legend for what he did at Wembley alone, but there's going to come a point in the near future where Hull FC are going to have to think about this long and hard.
Well, it's not even in the near future. I think we're there now.
Right now.
We've got to try and get Jez Litton a bit more game time. And there seems to be an obsession with leaving. Even when we've brought him on, we've left Houghton on there. I wouldn't do it.
Just take him off. Yeah, there's no harm in that.
Give him 10-15 minute spells.
He's only human, isn't he? He's not a robot. As much as some people like to think he is.
It's going to add to the quality of what he does while he's on. If you've got another player there, and our forwards are playing big minutes. Last week was a blip, don't get me wrong.
I hope you're right.
Well, and I've said this all week, that I think Sunday's game against Salford tells us an awful lot about Hull FC this season.
How they respond.
Yeah.
It also depends on who comes back. I know. The violins playing in the background behind Johnny's head. But it's still a relevant point, and I've said this in Up the Cream fanzine, latest copy, issue 69, Josh Griffin on the front. Judge Hull FC when they're
Are we seeing the back of that?
Oh yeah, look at that little advert, meat pies and shots. Judge Hull FC when they're at full tilt, and when they've been at full tilt for 6-7 weeks, everyone's blowing smoke up St Helens and Warrington's asses right now, and it's just it's justifiable because they've had a great start to the season. It's definitely justified, but I think at the same time you can't swing the hammer at Hull FC when they've got 6-7 blocks, especially 3 or 4 of those who would make a difference to the side, sat in the stands because they're injured. I think we've got to have a bit of perspective here, and I think if Hull do get a run in the summer where they're at full tilt, you've got Connor firing, Westerman, Jamie Shaw, players that are out. Josh Bowden, no one mentions Josh Bowden. He's been out for nearly a year now. He was up there with Taylor and Watts when he played for Hull in the cup winning years. Great player, Josh Bowden. Chris Green's got to come back in that squad as well. So Andrea Savelio, he made his debut on Friday, but he wasn't fit. So there's a lot of quality still to come back in that squad. And I think people outside of Hull, although it sounds like we're banging the injury drum and looking for excuses, they are relevant points we're making here.
I do think we've got enough to cover it, and I'm hopeful that we've got enough to cover it this Sunday. I think it's more about an attitude thing. And when I talked about perfect storm earlier, I do think the London game previously took an awful lot out of us. And we had to dig very deep to get a result in that game. We were busted up at the back end of that game, and then our recovery period was extended due to the 3G pitch. I mean, everybody's is going to be playing on London, but the scheduling just didn't quite work out for us because we ran into a red hot team effectively 4 days later.
Yeah.
And we couldn't handle it. And we didn't get good. Yeah, absolutely. They took us apart, and they were really good. They were quality. What I'll say is they won't win the comp with Deck Patton at halfback.
Interesting. St Helens and Rovers then. When I saw the teams, and St Helens actually chose to rest 4 players, Percival, James Roby, Zeb Tyre, who was the other one again?
Walmsley missed the game because
Alex Walmsley, there you go. Yeah, there you go. So Alex Walmsley, James Roby, Mark Percival and Zeb Tyre. So 4 key players there.
Yeah, absolutely. And Theo Farge went off after 20 minutes injured as well. So your mate Danny Richardson's going to get a gig this week.
Oh, yeah, can't wait for that. That will be interesting to see what happens.
So it shows the strength, doesn't it? And some of the kids that they brought in. They brought Jack Wellesby in, played left centre, who was fullback in the Academy series at the start of the year.
Aaron Smith,
going to be a superstar. Aaron Smith probably, for me, won't be a top line Super League player, but is a backup 9 who's coming. What was interesting was he spent a bit of time at Rovers last year, didn't he? And turned up playing against them this week and scored a soft try.
What does it say about Rovers then? An opposition resting so many key players and then still. So I know they gave them a good crack. They was leading at half time. They got to a stage, where they pushed.
It's a reflection of who they are, isn't it? And where they're at.
Massively, yeah. It's embarrassing from my point of view. Also, when I did see the half time thing, I was thinking, was that Saints' arrogance going to come back and haunt them? But look, it says a lot about a team that can do that and still grind out a result.
You listen to Tim Sheens as well, and he was still saying, oh, well, we were all busted and we were missing that and we need some middles back. They were reasonably strong in terms of, you look at their personnel they had out, it was on the edges really where they were shy, but you look at some of the tries they conceded and they were relatively soft.
I mean, we've watched the highlights and I just point out Craig Hall. Literally, he was filthy with Danny Addy after one of the tries.
He'd run up. It was Aaron Smith one, and it was him who'd shot off.
Mental. It's amazing how different. Obviously, people see different things, don't they? And dare I say, is there something wrong there? You got players biting at each other. Kane Linnett, though, scoring 2 tries. What did you make of him?
No, it's a decent pick-up for him, decent solid signing. I had to laugh when Kane Linnett signed for him and said he'd come here to win the competition.
Yeah, he must play a lot of Xbox or PlayStation.
He's maybe signed for the wrong team if he thinks he's going to win the Super League.
Oh, let's think of the Super League, don't be silly.
Well, no, I don't think we probably are, but we're in a better position than they are.
No, that's like saying the sky's blue and grass is green.
Being serious, though, and I do think they need to concentrate on this week for them is key.
They've got to target games, you know.
Yeah.
They've got to target their wins, and you're right. Leeds at home and the form Leeds are in is a game that Rovers must win, because if they don't win,
they're in a relegation scrap.
They'll go a joint bottom, won't they? And if they get a heavy defeat, they could go below London as well. So for them, it is a must-win game on Thursday, and they've got to start thinking. You know, they've already played London at home. They've already played Salford at home.
Leeds will be buoyant as well after finally getting that win, won't they?
Yeah. And Sky as well. They'll want to back that up, and they won't want to, because the longer it goes on, we've already had people saying they're in crisis, and you talk about Leeds in a bad rut, and it gets to you after a while, doesn't it? And they'll want to prove that.
Lola here comes back, doesn't he? And with a point to prove. And you look at Rovers' edges, and a lot of talk has been how they've been relatively flimsy on the edges. Somebody like Conrad Hurrell is going to really test them. He is on that edge, and I know you're not a massive fan, but going forward, he's going to...
he's going to make meters, because he's got twice the size of the people.
He's going to be a threat as well, dangerous. He's going to be a dangerous threat close to that.
Defensive, though. You turn around, look at the try that Alex Foster scored, little kick in the in goal, there was nowhere near it.
I can see Leeds causing him a lot of problems up the middle of the ruck with a quick play of the ball.
Well, Parcells arguably got,
Parcells not playing much, is he?
He's been left out of the team a lot, hasn't he?
And you can see that continuing this week with Dwyer's heroics last week, and they're not going to drop him now, are they?
No, not
and let's be right, Brad Dwyer is not your game controlling architectural 9. He is a jack in the box, will get out of dummy half, full of energy, and will make a nuisance of himself.
Test your defence, though.
And he will keep you honest.
He'll run at you, right? Yeah.
And there's a question how honest their middles are at the moment, or are they too big, Rovers? You look at them; they're a big old side, aren't they? Up the middle, are they too big? Are they playing bigger minutes?
Like maybe Mitch Garbutt, who knows?
Interesting one. I don't see their fortunes turning around anytime soon. I hope they don't anyway.
Wigan Catalans 42-0 winners then. It was interesting to see Sam Tompkins go back there and get bowled every time they touch the ball. And Catalans, what is it with them? They're such a yo-yo club, aren't they? We said it before on Meat Pies and Shots. Let's talk about Wigan though, because Joe Burgess, 8-0 half time. So Joe Burgess coming back. I know he's had a couple of games now, but scoring a hat trick, that's great. Again, great to see a player that's struggled with injury recently. That left edge combination as well. George Williams, I know Joe Greenwood didn't play, but you've got Gildart and Burgess himself. That's going to cause teams a lot of problems in Super League.
Hats off to Wigan as well. I think threw Partington in to play on the left edge as a second rower. They also had Morgan Smithies making his debut. They had Liam Byrne playing as well. These are young kids who hadn't played Super League before.
Liam Byrne played against Hull last month when we went. Sorry, back in February now. So he's a player.
Yeah, he scored a good try then as well, didn't he? I mean, these are big units as well that they're bringing through in the forwards, and they're holding their own. And there's question marks about Wigan. Wigan for me aren't really a viable threat for the competition still, but as you said, you can pin them down to their left edge attack. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Burgess, Gildart, Williams, Greenwood is as good as it gets as an edge, or not as good. It's up there. To say it's as good as it gets is a question. Again, similar to Warrington, but they're probably not as good in that the weather is awful and it's a bit of an arm wrestle. Do they have the kicking game to win an attritional game?
Long kicking game's the problem. Like you say, short kicking game with Williams is great, but long kicking
they've got personnel to score tries and trouble teams. They've also got it in them to get taken apart, as we've seen. It might be that the teams that played them at the start of the year have caught them cold and caught them at the opportune moment. Played them while they're still finding their feet.
Adrian Lamb did say that his team will get better as they dry up when you go into the summer months. And he did say that before a ball was kicked, to be fair to him. So if they improve, go under the radar. You think they're only 2 points away from where Hull and Salford are, and then they're only 2 wins away from Wakefield, only 3 away from Cass, so they can soon change.
Oh, absolutely.
It's tight, isn't it? It's all play table.
You'll have weeks where teams like Wigan will look like well-beaters, and they'll have weeks where I see them being another team that are up and down. You talk about yo-yo teams like Catalans. It was a prime example. You don't know with either Catalans or Wigan which team you're getting when you turn up and play them.
Catalans were atrocious. It's not beat around the bush. Yeah, they're absolutely.
Well, they had a spell where there was atrocious. Second half, I think the last 20 minutes they conceded
20 points, wasn't it? So,
well, over 20 points. Over 20 I think it was 20-0 with.
Like you say, at half time, you're still in the game, aren't you? Probably battled well, but offer nothing going forward and to, they get the backsides handed to them like that.
And they had a strong side out as well, Catalans.
Barry McAlorum, yeah.
That was, and is he the glue? Is he the difference?
It makes you wonder based on that, doesn't it? But we'll come on to the off-field stuff later on in the show. That'll definitely come into the rant, the infamous rant that'll come. But yeah, moving on. London v Huddersfield down in the capital, and Johnny's favourite player was at fault for 3 of Huddersfield's tries. Jordan Kidd-Babdo. Best thing about it was the half-assed attempts, putting an arm on her shoulder, then looking around saying it wasn't me, lads, it's not my fault.
He got carried over the line twice, didn't he? And danced round him.
Well, one of them was at Ugarte, ran like 10 metres forward with Abdul on his back.
It was McGilvery, I think. No, McGilvery's a strong player.
No, it's McGilvery, right edge. Yeah, apologies.
But Abdul is a big old lump for an half-back, and he had him 10 metres out, had his arms around him and just got carried over the line.
Good kick for Jay Pitts' try.
I said to you, he's got a kicking game. I've always said that. But before we started filming this today, I walked in and said to Dan, well, he created a try for him and he cost him 3.
With a big smile on his face, like the Joker.
not that I want to be proven right or anything. But it's there. It's just the way it is. London needs some better halfbacks.
They fought back though, they're 28-6 down at one point. I know you can say the game was
fullback's a quality player. I like Alex Walker.
Alex Walker, yeah, he's fast, isn't he?
I don't know what Darnell McIntosh was doing with that try. That's how to buy a dummy.
Maybe the blonde hair got caught in the sun and he just lost his.
He was doing a Hakim Maludi impression, wasn't he?
Must have been watching so much of the Frenchman on Friday night. But Huddersfield, I don't want to say they've turned a corner because they beat a very poor, they hammered a very poor Rovers team, and then they've beaten London, who many people have tipped to go down. I still think they'll stay up, I really do. They score points. I know they concede a lot too, but they score points, and that always means they're in the game. I mean, you think back to, we got 28-14 up. I know if Mark Sneed kicked the goals, Hull would have been out of sight, but London fought back. They did the same thing. They've got some fighting qualities down there, and they've already shocked a few sides. I do think there's something about them, but you are right in the half. You're absolutely bang on. They're a bit wayward, maybe need that little bit more direction, but I still think they've got some scopes there to shock a few more teams. And how many wins will you realistically need to stay up this season? You're probably looking at 7 or 8, maybe 7, 8 wins. They're almost halfway there.
Everybody's beating each other, aren't they? You could end up needing more than that.
I don't think you'll need more than that, honestly. I think that the bottom team will end up getting about 7 or 8 wins tops. And I think it's a 29-game season, isn't it?
I think you can call your bottom 4 now, though. I think you can turn around and say London, Huddersfield,
Rovers and
Leeds, yeah.
Well, the rest of it's a lottery, isn't it? Who's going to get that playoff spot? I'd say it's between the other, obviously 2 are dead set.
Well, it's a dog fight, isn't it? Yeah. I said this even after we got beat 63-12 on Friday. I turned around and said, you've got Wyatt and Saints miles ahead of the others, and probably Cass a little bit behind them, probably slightly separated.
They're only 2 points in a week now, aren't they?
And then you've got a dogfight really with Wakefield. You'd say Catalans, Wigan.
Yeah.
Salford, possibly. I can see Salford falling away.
We said that all along. They'll definitely fade.
And I think their run might have started already. If we go there and we roll them,
let's hope so. So let's see how we go there Sunday.
Yeah, I think that could. You look at there's holes in Salford's squad. I mean, we'll come on to them later. But
well, right now, next game, Wakefield.
Well, let's talk about it then. Their right edge, there's holes there, isn't there? Daryl Allfair and Chris Wellen. It's not the most prominent attack, defensive or attacking edge in Super League, is it? And it's someone with a good left edge. You think it teams like Wigan, all have got a fair left edge. Sorry, Daryl Alforts is playing on the left wing at the moment. I know there's Ken Co may come back and play on the left edge, and Daryl Alforts to the right. I think at the weekend they played Ed Chamberlain on the right edge.
Yeah, that's correct.
And it gives you an indication of their squad depth and where they're at. And
well, that's the problem.
Championship
3 or 4, yeah.
I think that's they wanted to bring Chris Nanino in, didn't they? Or have they managed to bring him in now?
I think he's confirmed.
So he might play against us, but then he's not played for a few weeks. He could shore them up a bit on that right centre.
What's going to happen? He'll come in over blind, and then we'll go Catalans the week after. Catalans, after being absolutely dog shit in Wigan, will turn into Melbourne Storm when they play Hull. It's going to happen.
Sam Cassiano will have some match fitness and he'll rip us apart.
Yeah,
McAlorum will come back.
Yeah, not that we're pessimistic or anything like that, but no, Wakefield again. I don't know what I was thinking when I said they'd finish now. I've had one of those days, haven't I?
Danny Brough is...
I like Wakefield. I've always liked Wakefield. I don't believe in second team nonsense or anything like that. I'm not saying that for a moment. I just like them as a club. I don't just like them. I hate Rovers. I absolutely despise Leeds. not a big fan of Wigan either, but Wakefield I like as a club. They just do everything the right way. And it's nice to see them getting some results on the pitch now. Like you say, Danny Brough was great.
He's added to him, hasn't he?
Oh, massively. Just short kicking game. Like, I think...
long kicking game as well.
Yeah, that's all. Well, just kicking game in general. But we watched that try to Jacob Billy and we just both looked at each other and went, wow, great try. Great player. Miller's a very underrated player. It was, he's given a tough time at Hull. He's gone to Wakefield. It's probably about right for him. I think he's a good player.
He needed to develop in a team which has slightly less exposure, and Hull is a city where if one bad performance and everybody's after you.
We've got the worst fan base in the world.
Well, the ficklest.
Yeah, the ficklest fan base. We've got ficklest. Yeah, it's a word.
Most fickle, maybe.
No, I like your word, ficklest. I like that.
Ficklest.
New
the ficklest.
We'll enter it in the Oxford Dictionary for next year.
We need some meat pies and shops words, don't we?
There's the first one. Ficklest. It's right though, isn't it? Because we've had it all season. Stuff Leeds at home. Everyone's thinking, "Oh wow, these players are great."
Well, you say we stuff Leeds at home. We stuffed Leeds for a 20-minute spell, didn't we? And then second half, we took Joe Westerman off with an injury, and our attack blunted. He's key to our attack. I know we're jumping back a little bit, but he makes a huge difference when he's fit. We go back to Wakefield.
Bill Topol back on the left edge, he makes a big difference. And again, underrated player. When you say, I'm not underrated as far as the players are concerned, because only like third in Man of Steel last year.
Bill Tupou coming out of his own end is just as valuable to Wakefield as he is going forward as well. He does a mountain of work.
He's a big lad though, and he's massive.
Starts their sets off brilliantly. Absolutely. He's a big, really good signing for them, where they picked him up when he was a bit unheralded. Although he's got NRL pedigree, he was playing for Canberra, wasn't he? He's without ever being a superstar.
He's a steady player and he's done very well.
He's come over here and he's built a really good career for himself. And Riesling on the other edge is a threat for them.
Yeah, good player, Riesling.
And then
good to see him doing well.
Ryan Hampshire has also given them some balance out the back. They're a good, solid team out the Wakey.
Yeah, like I say, you get Hampshire in open space and it's try time 9 times out of 10 and he's right.
And then Paulie scored his trademark crash off Danny Brough tried from 5 metres.
What his diet is on a week-to-week basis. What does he actually eat?
But he's got an engine for.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not calling him like an obese fat lad on the fridge or anything like that. This is where I've gone wrong. Because I thought Fafita, Paulie, Arona, even like Sir Craig Gilbert, I thought they'd struggle with interchange reductions this year, but they've proven me wrong. Interesting on Fafita. Let's say I was at a Hull FC reserve game last week and spoke to a certain bald legend of the game. I think that no disillusions to who that legend could be. And first of all, he played with both Fafita brothers at West Tigers in the NRL.
Yeah. And
he said that although they're good, the bus
said him rhymes with Bellis.
Yeah, he could say that. Yeah, and he said that the Fafita brothers, well, they can punch holes in the defence and they can. Do some things that make you go, wow, that's not bad for a front row. They're also really lazy, and when the going gets tough, they're usually the ones to hide. I think you can say that with Andrew Fafita sometimes, but with David, I think he's done well in Super League, but it's a lot less pressure than the NRL in it. So you can get away with making mistakes, whereas in the NRL you can't. That's why Fnu's found it tough at West Tigers. At Hull, he made mistakes, but they were comprehended with flashes of brilliance, but in the NRL you can't do that. Coaches hate it. You make a few mistakes, you won't get yourself in the team. You'll be dropped in the the New South Wales or Queensland Cup the next week, and I think that's the main difference between the two competitions.
Well, it's the depth, and there is a style of play there, and there's an argument that they've got it right and we haven't. And
well, their test teams
we should value the ball more than what we do, and we play a bit too fast and loose. But then there seems to be more of a value placed on playing entertaining rugby over here. I don't buy into that myself. Winning rugby for me.
Well, if I'm watching the game as a neutral, you want to be entertained. That's what's so good with, like I say, with Brad Dwyer's drop goal last week. But if it's my club, Hull FC, or if it's in the NRL, if it's Penrith, couldn't care how they play. All that I care about is the 2 points. But it's down to interpretations, isn't it? Just before we go on to our rants, Super League done and dusted, I think you can't not mention Thatcher Heath Crusaders in meat pies and shots after getting there. Their scalp over North Wales Crusaders.
Was it a shock? I don't necessarily think it was.
The RFL actually put on, like in my capital letters, shocking the Challenge Cup. And little Bobby Golding on his Twitter page went absolutely mental, saying, "No, you clowns don't know nothing. It's not a shock." But it's not the first time Heartland's amateur club has beaten an expansionist semi-professional club, and it probably says a lot about how the Crusaders have fallen, but I'd necessarily say it's also a reflection of the amateur game and how strong it is.
I think you've got to look at, there's not much difference between the Conference League and the players playing in the... You look at the top conference sides, and a lot of them have players who would comfortably play professionally.
Well, Hunslet Parkside, Civil, Westall, you could argue they'd beat teams like, I know Hemel are obviously gone now, Oxford have gone now, but they'll comfortably beat them. They'll probably beat West Wales, and they'll probably give you like Keighley, Hunslet a good game too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's not discrediting League One, this is crediting the amateur game.
Well, you talk about Westall there. Westall ran Dewsbury, I think it was 32-6.
Yeah, well, I went to a College Cup game at Westall a couple of seasons ago, and they played Workington and lost on conversions 18-16.
Yeah.
So they pushed them all the way. So there's definitely some quality in there.
The top end of the conference is not far away from the League Ones.
No, I'd agree with that. And like I said, I must reinforce the point again. It's not a dig at League One because I think there's some very good players in League One.
Yeah, you're bullying up the conference.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's nice to see. And it's also a nice. Also, me and Johnny are involved in the amateur game, and we coach an under-9s team at Cottingham Tigers.
First game of the season tonight.
Yeah, exactly, at Hull Wyke. But the point I'm making is the participation levels in Hull, the youth is thriving right now. It's great to see. And I just thought that can continue, and that obviously continues throughout Rugby League everywhere else. We're going
to as an example to enhance on Dan's point, we're going to a game tonight where we're taking 14 players down there from Cottingham. Now you play 9-a-side. Also, Wyke are taking 22. Hull Dockers are turning up with 22 as well. So and that's just 3 teams, and I think we've got 8 or 9 teams playing in our league, all with similar numbers.
I think it's great. That's fantastic, isn't it?
That's 7. That's 8 and 9 year olds. Yeah,
it's brilliant.
And it's the same all the way through all the certainly the primary youth setups at the moment. And the key is to keep these kids interested and get them going.
You've got to keep the enjoyment there, haven't you? And that's the key. Yeah.
Onto the rant.
Johnny's favourite topic.
We're going to let Dan go first here because he's got one here and I've got no clue what you're on about.
Right.
So.
My gripe is people bringing Rugby League down. I appreciate... Right, journalists obviously got a job to do, haven't they? They've got to ask the questions, they've got to get the stories, fill the newspaper pages. But why be negative for negative's sake? There's one guy, and this is where Johnny goes... You'll see him in it, called the Game Caller.
Who?
Yeah, exactly, who. But basically, he calls himself the Game Caller. His real name's Mick. And he's Bradford born. He's another one of these idiots that has behind a fake name. But he's already exposed himself as Mick. So I think it's Mick Gledhill, something like that. But he's got himself a voice from a community radio station, a bit like what me and Johnny go on. I think we know it all just because we're on a community radio station when really we know nothing. But he's Bradford born, Bradford Bulls to the core. And he's in Adrian Chalmers and the RFL's pocket. I think he's actually secretly bent from because it's embarrassing. And he's got a gripe with Robert Elston and Super League, and he comes out with this hashtag, well, he came out with this hashtag called Positive Rugby League, where he wouldn't have anything negative said about the game whatsoever. But now he'll blow up Bradford, he'll blow up anything the RFL does, so the Championship, the Summer Bash, blah blah blah. But everything Super League related, he'll put a spin on say it's not working, Robert Elston's an idiot, blah blah blah. My actual gripe with him is the past 2 weeks he's posted an attendance thing in comparison with Super League and other things.
I know you're on about now, yeah.
He's a muppet. His first one, he compared Super League attendances with the Rugby Union, the Aviva Premiership or whatever it's called now. And
might as well go with the Premier League. Yeah.
And he didn't take into consideration that weekend, Hull FC, Wigan, Leeds, St Helens, all the big clubs played away from home. So I'll
temper that well before we upset people. All the clubs that traditionally have big attendances.
Yeah, far bigger attendances. And also, that Rugby Union weekend was when Harlequins and Saracens played their big blockbuster event that they did every year. They went to the Olympic Stadium and got a huge attendance, and he compared it. But the best thing is, when he compared this week's attendances, he did round 8 last year, which was Good Friday. Historically, you got a sellout at St Helens for Saints and Wigan. You've got a sellout at Rovers for Rovers v Hull on Good Friday. You've got Cash v Wigan selling out. You've got Leeds with a big attendance. And
let's have a look at this Good Friday where we get 20,000.
Exactly. How can you compare that to a standard round? Round 8 this year wasn't Easter. But then someone that's challenged him saying, why don't you compare it to a normal Rugby Union weekend? I said, I can't do that. It's not fair. It's a European Cup weekend. Well, hang on a minute. It wasn't, you didn't have that same thought process with Super League when you started comparing them to the Rugby Union. Now it's suddenly not, it's just certain things.
Agendas.
Exactly, agendas. And he's got a massive gripe, a massive chip on his shoulder with Super League. I can guarantee you 100% if Bradford Bulls were in Super League, they'd be waxing lyrical about Robert Elstone. But because Super League's thriving and his beloved Bradford Bulls aren't in it anymore, I'm not having a dig at Bradford Bulls here because I think Super League generally would be stronger with them in. And also, you look at some of the replies this Muppet's getting to his tweets. They're all saying, "Oh, I'm a Bradford fan. I'm actually embarrassed this fella supports the same club as me." That's generally what they're saying. Some of them.
Yeah, but anybody with half a brain would be able to see that you can't compare like for like, or you're not even comparing like.
Well, this
for
is
like.
The funny thing because when people actually point him out in his errors, he just blocks you on Twitter. There's a journalist called I can't remember his first name. I do apologise. He's witness based, but I think his surname's Gordon. He owns RugbyLeague.co.uk, that website, and he seems a respectable, likeable fellow anyway. And he actually called him out apparently on Twitter and got blocked for it just because he pointed out one of his errors. So I think that tells you the kind of bloke the game caller is. Moving on.
My rant is the salary cap. Now, my issue with the salary cap is this. We're rewarding mediocrity. We're bringing levels. It was brought in because teams were managing the finances accordingly. They weren't living within the means and they was trying to outspend themselves. Now, the way I sort of see that is you should have to justify what you're going to spend. You should be able to show that you can afford to pay for what you're going to spend. But if you've got, say Warrington with Sam and Moran, if you've got an owner who's prepared to go stick an extra 1.5 million quid in the coffers, and he's ready to do that and prepared to write that cheque and lodge that money with the RFL and cover all of the costs for the salaries, got no issue with him doing that. No issue whatsoever. It's the salary. We've reached a point where the salary cap is stifling our game, in my opinion. 1.8 million. In comparison with, or 1.9 or whatever it is. And I know we've brought in these marquee player rules and everything, and not everybody's spending up to the cap and all this, but there are teams that could conceivably spend more, and it would drive the market value more.
I completely agree with that. The salary cap holds the game back. Right, the way I look at it, right, why was the salary cap brought in? It was brought in to make Super League allegedly more competitive.
Yeah,
right?
it was.
And it hasn't done that. There's been 4 winners of Super League: Bradford, Leeds, St Helens and Wigan.
I think
over 20 years.
On a week-by-week basis, you can say that it's worked
Has it?
in a fashion. No, in that you can turn up most weeks now and everybody, pretty much any team can beat any team. I'll give it that. So it's sort of, but we've had it for enough years now that you would expect more than 4 winners.
You can still get that in the Premier League though. Crystal Palace can still look at last night. Wolves beat Man United and look at the different resources between them two clubs.
Exactly. It's the beauty of sport in that if you manage your team accordingly and you bring, if you're a club that can afford to spend as much as other clubs, then you find a way around it. You build your youth, you rely on your youth, you promote your youth, and you become that sort of club, and you cut your cloth accordingly. Or you develop your infrastructure and build forward with
like
it.
Wigan do. You know, people laugh at Wigan and the off-field stuff, and
organically you've got to be right. And you say this, you laugh at Wigan with the off-field stuff. I'll say something really positive about Wigan now, that we went to Wigan, as I said, in February. The pre-match and the half-time entertainment and the way they had everything and the whole setup of the day was far beyond anything that I've experienced at any other ground this season in Super League.
I think that's fair to say, but look what they do, you know, with their academy. I think Sean Wayne gave debuts to about 30 different academy players.
It's a club being run in the right way, and we'll touch on some of the other stuff, which I don't think the club necessarily has too much control over, other than they can make some slightly tougher decisions.
The governing body can make it tougher.
Yeah.
But going back to your salary cap, the way I look at it now, is it the salary cap isn't justified when you've got big players leaving to either go to Rugby Union or the NRL, and this happens time and time again. Think of players Super League has lost.
Well, for me, with the salary cap, if you are going to retain a salary cap in some form, you automatically make any player that's come through your system exempt from that salary cap.
Yeah.
It does that, and it rewards the teams that develop their own players.
Exactly. So if you've got superstars of the game, use Warren's an example. They've developed Ben Curry. You know,
they can pay him whatever they want,
and it doesn't count on the cap. We'll have to see with Danny Houghton.
Danny Houghton, Jamie Shaw, these sort of people.
Leeds with, you know, Asham Leeds, you know,
Wigan would have no salary cap. They've got about 20.
Their 1.8 million could be spent on their imports.
But then it encourages clubs to invest in their infrastructure, to invest in the youth, and to go through from
and
there.
Reserves as well. You know, you're encouraging, you know, late bloomers, you can bring through someone through at 21, 22, 23.
Did have reading up the cream that it's to be compulsory next year?
You did, yeah.
Was that
I'm just waiting for everyone to go exclusive now after I put it online.
Was it an exclusive? Have we got formal confirmation?
It hasn't been formally announced yet, but yeah, Super League clubs, whether they like it or not, will be playing reserves in 2020.
Good, which is a step in the right direction. But I mean,
I'd be interested how Leeds go about this, because apparently Kevin Sinfield's a big advocate of it, whereas we know Gary Everton isn't. Yeah. So will there be a clash of powers there?
But the salary cap, it just doesn't work now. It did for a period, I think, in terms of consolidating the game and allowing teams to get the houses in order. But it's as the world has developed and as other sports have developed, we've stayed the same and not grown, and it's a hindrance, certainly, even in comparison to the NRL with their 6.8 million salary cap.
Exactly. Right? It just hinders our game. They lose players too, though. You've seen
Rugby
Valentine
Union,
Holmes has gone to NFL.
American football.
Yeah,
they've lost players to AFL.
AFL, yeah. Israel Floves, who went to Rugby Union, they've lost players to Rugby...
and Rugby Union, whilst they have a salary cap, it's relatively loose.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily...
There's loads of holes you can get around, isn't there?
And then for me saying this argument, there'll be plenty of people out there saying, well, it keeps my club in check and allows us to make sure that we don't overspend. Well, surely that's what the people who run your club are for.
That's what you pay your accountant for, isn't it?
Well, that's what your chief exec should be there to take responsibility, and your managing director, your owner. It's their responsibility to ensure that your club's there. It's not the RFL to police you.
Well, that's where I'm agreed with that game call in Bradford, because they see it like it was someone else's responsibility to get them out of the shit after they... it happened twice, don't forget. It happened twice. I remember all them bucket collections. I think we went to one in, I think it was 2011, 2012. Went to Bradford. There's bucket collections everywhere. We all
people were giving shirts away and stuff, all memorabilia and stuff like that.
Sentimental memorabilia, exactly. Players and fans included.
And what happened to that money? Disappeared in somebody's back pocket.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, it makes you wonder.
You've had it with Witness this year as well, haven't you? It's like,
I think they did it the right way, didn't they?
Well, they've kept their club afloat, haven't they?
Yeah.
They've got back control of their club, and they've done it like that.
They're not a so-called new club like Bradford are, yeah.
But that's financial mismanagement. So if that's still happening in the era of the salary cap, and you can still end up with financial mismanagement, then let's just do away with it and police it slightly differently. As I said, as sort of a halfway meeting, what I would like, my personal preference would be you probably change the salary cap to £2 million, but then you say anybody that you produce is exempt.
That's probably about right, yeah. And it's encouraging you to bring kids through your academy or bring them through your reserves.
Yeah, so it's
no brainer for me. A little bit on the Challenge Cup then. I noticed all the little teams are in it now, aren't they? Round 5, the little Super League clubs.
Like the Dobbins?
Yeah, and Leeds. Obviously Salford and London are in there too, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed they all got little nice favourable draws.
Leeds, Workington at home, yeah. Rove's got Salford, didn't they?
They've never got Salford.
Sorry, Leeds, apologies. Yeah. Salford got Rochdale.
And they'll play Lee, and again, right, a little bit of a rant here, but Rovers will play Lee in the Challenge Cup. They won't play the Lee team that's played in the Championship all season because half their players are registered to St Helens.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not going to play in the Challenge Cup. So they'll rock up and they'll play Lee reserves.
Yeah, it's embarrassing the actual way we go about it with the dual wedge system, and that's where we come into it now. If you're encouraging, people to come through your academy, get them exempt from the salary cap, it's a no-brainer. But then again, what do me and Johnny now? Moving on down under then, NRL round 3 down there. They're just getting to grips with their season right now.
Good games this week.
Mate, the first last Thursday's game, Brisbane St George, was an absolute thriller. Thoroughly enjoyed it from minute 1 to minute 80. St George deserve winners, but what I will say is they should have won the game a lot more comfortably than they did. It took a Corey Norman, last play field goal for them to actually see the Broncos off. But then, could I contradict myself there and say you give the Broncos a little bit of credit for...
Good team, aren't they, Broncos? I mean, it was only a couple of weeks ago we were saying Broncos are sort of struggling. I just losing Gareth Widdop, or even playing him at fullback, I think has impacted St George. I think there'd be a better team. It certainly would have been a better team with him in as a half. The fact that they've now lost him for the year with his shoulder injury calls into question.
We've got Matt Duffy to come back in now.
Well, Matt Duffy's an excellent fullback. Dangerous. I'd liken him to a Jamie Shorter.
We saw him at Ann Stadium when we went to Australia last year, didn't we? He was great. Yeah, he scored a try against us. He was a really good player. The Widdop situation was horrible because he sort of picked up a loose ball, rolled over on it, and then the pain in his shoulder made him lose the ball, and Brisbane actually scored from that play. And you knew straight away what he'd done. It's a sickener for Widdop. 3
times in 12 months.
Warrington must be squeaky bum time now. Just talking about Warrington and their forward thinking and how good they've been. And
I looked at this a little bit, and there's some talk that there's 2 ways of going about when you've dislocated the shoulder in the way that he has. And one option is rehab the shoulder, and you can get yourself back fit in 2 to 3 months, and maybe come back and play. Strong rehab it, but then there's an increased risk of redislocation. Or the other way is surgery, and to go in there and hopefully make it stronger than it ever was. I think, and I could be wrong with this, but I seem to recollect that the first time he did it, he had the surgery. Second time, he rehabbed it. And now he's done it again a third time. There's no real option. He's got to go in and have the surgery and look to do it. But it makes you question, is there an underlying problem there? Is that something that's going to be repetitive and come back out? I hope not, for his sake. But
yeah, as I say, we want to see him in Super League.
There's a worry. It does then beg the question, did St George know? Did they have a bit of an inkling that there's an issue with his shoulder, and that's why they're prepared to release him?
To let him go, because he's the captain in the day, and he's a big part of what they do.
And they've moved him to fullback. Was that to protect his shoulder from
defensive
lots of defence?
Yeah. It makes you wonder. It throws open a can of worms, doesn't it? As far as Brisbane go, I think I point out to Vita Pangai Jr. He's actually a player I like the fact that he told Origin to do one, stayed loyal to Tonga, but he shot. He had a blinder against the Cowboys.
There's talk that he might play Origin.
Ironically, unless you're talking
they're on about providing dispensation to the Islander players now, aren't they? Now that Tonga have stepped up and.
Well, as long as they can still stay loyal, like you say, to your Samoas, your Tongas, your Fijis, then I necessarily haven't got a problem with it. What you don't want to see is Pangai Jr. play for New South Wales and he's not allowed to play for Tonga.
And then Tyrone and Sunderland decide he's Australian.
Yeah, exactly. Like Philip Kafusi, that New Zealand.
He had a brilliant game though, didn't he? Pangai Jr. last week, against the Cowboys, and absolutely took Taumalolo apart. And you called it to me earlier. You said that
jumped out the line twice. McGuinness took advantage, scored one himself, and he put Corbin Sims over for the other. So
he was almost trying too hard, wasn't he? He's believed a little bit, not his height, but.
It was just enthusiastic shooting out the line, and sometimes if you shoot out the line and everyone else is throwing him back, you leave holes, don't you?
Yeah, if you become predictable, then you've got to pick. The game's played 90% up in your head.
Yeah.
I've always said this.
Yeah, definitely.
A clever rugby player will always be better than a naturally gifted rugby player.
Yeah. Moving on then, Friday's double-header games. You know that actually NRL play a game at 6 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. Imagine if that was over here, everyone would go up in arms, wouldn't they? But yeah, they do fight across Sydney to try to get to the game at 6 o'clock. And Canberra v Newcastle was the first one. And another good game from John Bateman, it must be said. Sam Williams, a name we know in Super League. He played in Caesar, was out with an injury. He came into the half. He actually scored a try and got a field goal as well.
I've said this. Sam Williams is a halfback who didn't really cut it in Super League. He's gone back to the NRL and looks.
He did okay. They did nothing. He didn't do much wrong. You've got to give him credit there.
It's horses for courses in this Canberra team. They're a forward dominant team. Bateman is on fire. His attack actually looks better than it did in Super League.
He's been ridiculously good. Ryan Sutton's been good as well, actually, because. He's a player that he's never got into an England senior squad yet he got touted over there, as an NRL signing for Canberra. He's looked okay.
He's a big lad, and he's a big lump, and he works hard, goes solid. He was a player who came through the Wigan system. He's trying to take his chance. Somebody was backing his ability, and saying, I'm good enough to play on our NRL.
Fair play to him, throwing that ball.
And he's playing, he's doing it, and he's found a home for him, with the other English lads. Canberra seems to be a good base for them.
It's an unfashionable NRL club. It's also, I think we've said this before, but it's away from the limelight of Sydney, innit? So you can.
But it's still significantly nicer than Wigan.
Yeah, that goes without saying.
Awful.
Hey, it's never dulling up. Parramatta v Roasters. This was a cracking game. You had Andrew Voss calling it, and puns aside, he was labelling it. He said it felt like a finals game. It actually did have that intensity. I really enjoyed watching that one back. I thought Blake Ferguson was really good for Para. Mitchell Moses as well. If it wasn't for Luke Keary, he'd probably be knocking on the door of Origin. He's a really good player. But I think Roasters, considering they lost 2 players during the game.
That's an interesting one. I mean, just to touch back a little bit on, you talk about Luke Keary, you think he'll play 6, don't you?
For New South Wales?
Yeah,
I don't think Maloney will get in.
You don't think Maloney will play? I mean, from your beloved Panthers. Is there not a little bit of...
Well, Keary was 18th.
It's your shirt?
Keary was 18th man last time, one of the last Origins. So if you're picking it right now, can you actually leave Luke Keary out? He's been phenomenal in the first 3 games.
They won the series, didn't they, last year?
That's the thing. It's one for Brad Fittler to think about, isn't it? Does he stick with the tried and trusted Maloney and Cleary that won an Origin?
Who were playing together
week in, week out. Or does he throw Luke Keary in there? That's why you get selected. You know, cliche as it is to make those decisions. Going back to, as I say, I was impressed with Power, but the Roosters, considering they had players out, they were still good. You know, Sia Soa Takioho made meters galore. James Tedesco, I know you're a big fan of him. He is ridiculously good, isn't he? And we're lucky enough we'll get to watch him in an Australian Kangaroo shirt for
years
to come.
He's as good a player as there is in the world, I think, at the moment, Tedesco. His footwork is tremendous.
Already looking forward to the World Cup just to see James Tedesco. It'll be the first time we've seen him in the flesh. I can't wait. He's such a good player.
Do you know what he reminds me of? Is Paul Wellens with better footwork and speed.
Yeah.
That is testament to him because he's solid defensively as well, isn't he? He's really good.
Bringing the ball back as well gets you on the front foot.
He beats that first man every time.
Every time.
But then he also has the ability where he could stretch out and go away from somebody.
Parramatta though, Wooden Spoonish last year, they had their salary cap problems. They're moving to their new grounding. I think it's the Bankwest Stadium officially. To me, it's just the new Parramatta Stadium because it's actually built on their form of their site. It's their site. It's their ground. It looks awesome. 30,000 capacity. It opens on Easter Monday against West Tigers. It just looks a quality venue. It's definitely on the bucket list next time I go to Sydney.
You said about Ferguson though, and I completely agree. I think that they've signed him back end of his career, granted, but he's a leader now within that team, and he starts their sets off so tremendously well. Yeah. And then on the back of that, it just takes the pressure off everybody, so they're playing on the front foot. And I think he's the key at the moment, is Blake Ferguson for Parramatta. I'm a bit wary of Mitchell Moses. I think he's a bit in and out, Mitchell Moses, and I know you're a big fan, and he's it's what I'd call a Warrington player. On a flat track, very, very good. When it gets tough, what will he be like? I don't know.
Oh, some fan out as cliche as it is.
Yeah.
The start of Saturday's triple header, Manly versus New Zealand Warriors. Manly actually took their own game to Christchurch, and before it kicked off, obviously they had the minute silence for what's gone on, the terror attack in Christchurch recently, which was a bit emotional actually. They had some Maori, obviously war dances going on, and Manly actually wore a commemorative kit with some New Zealand Maori patterns on the shoulders, and it was really nice to see. Manly were red hot. Daly Cherry Evans was awesome. Tom Trbojevic at fullback, his first game of 2019. But the Warriors were absolutely gash. They were horrifically bad. After, they played so well on the opening day.
Catalan's bad.
Look, this is a good statistic. The Warriors have obviously took 30 NRL games across New Zealand now. Just places like Christchurch, Dunedin, all places that aren't their historical home of Mount Smout. And they've only won 7 out of those 30 games. That is a pretty, telling statistic, really. It shows that they don't travel well. As soon as they go away from the home ground, even when they're in the home country, might be the Southern Islands, might have to cross a little bit of water to get to it, but they're opus.
I still don't get releasing Sean Johnson without a replacement. I just don't get it.
Well,
he's as much as he could be indifferent sometimes. He's a match winner, and he's somebody. Exactly. He was their leader. He was their best player by. I know there's Roger Tuivasa-Sheck.
Yeah, he's good at fullback. Yeah.
But he's not. You need a half there, don't you? Or somebody who's involved who's going to spark.
I say they've got a good one and a good 9 as it look at now, but they're going with Blake Green and a rookie. Rookie number 6. So for me, it makes no sense letting Johnson go, especially seeing how well he's done at Cronulla in the opening 3 games.
But then in New Zealand, normally I know this game was. Technically, it was in New Zealand, but when they play at home, when they play at their home ground, the difficult.
Not smart, yeah, they are difficult to beat.
And that analogy to Catalans, I think, fits really well, and the travelling aspect of it, the flying overseas.
Like you say, they have to travel more than anyone else, don't they?
And they do seem to struggle away from home, full stop. So, I don't know.
But as you say, Manly though, impressive.
Well, Manly, and again, I sort of get the reason why they've gone to New Zealand. They've got a strong history in terms of Islander and Kiwi players, haven't they, that have played for them over the years, and whether it was the right thing to, I don't know. But the Trbojevic brothers, or how else we're gonna Turbo, we'll call him, shall we? Turbo Tom.
Yeah.
At fullback is superb, awesome. And Jake at 13.
He's still 22, Tom. 22 years old. They've got some free.
He's getting bigger as well. Yeah, you look at him. He's 10, and
great playing for Serbia over Australia, though. Get Serbia up in the World Cup. Imagine them two with Jake and Tom in it. Well, spice things up a bit, wouldn't it?
Daly Cherry Evans is stepping up this year as well. He's looking like a leader again, I think. I know you're not his biggest fan. I
just think he's a dickhead off the field.
Has he matured?
Well, you could argue that. He got his Queensland place back last season.
He got his Australia shirt back, didn't he?
Yeah, I know injuries played the part in that, but still, he could have picked other people and they chose to pick with Cherry Evans, so you can maybe argue there's a bit of maturity there. If so, it's good to see, because
there's some good players. Marty Tapau,
hell
of a front rower. You know, they've got some.
Through a Blake as well.
They've got some. Yeah, they've got some strike of Manly. It's not my favourite club. And
no one likes Manly, do they? Manly are like the Wigan of the NRL.
I've said this before. I've got a mate who supports Rovers and Manly.
Yeah.
He's just a wrong one.
Just a wrong one, yes. Moving on then. Actually, no, let's just skip this game completely. Panthers went to Bathurst again. I think they've been going there since 2011. I would take one game on the road to Bathurst. It's west of the Blue Mountains, so you're going not quite in the outback, but you're going inland in Australia. And they got beat there last year by North Queensland. The year before they beat Cameron, but they scored 2 tries in the last 2 minutes to do so. And then they get beat heavily by Melbourne here, and it was. I watched it twice. I watched the first half live. Then Johnny picked me up to go to Cock Tigers under 9 straight. Then I watched the second half when I got back. Then I watched it again last night in preparation for this show today. And
Storm are good.
Yeah, I'll get to Storm in a minute. But I can't get my head around how Panthers only scored 2 points, a solitary penalty goal, because the amount of ball they had in the first half was ridiculous. They should have posted points on the board, but they didn't. And there's no zip at the minute. Cleary and Maloney, they've swapped sides. I think they're still taking a while to get going. It was interesting to see that the 2 centres swap. Wacker Blake has gone back to the right edge where he actually started last year before moving to the left. And now this year he started on left, now he's gone back to the right. Josh Mansour came back into the side, which was good to see, but they are really missing a strike player. Both the back rowers were out. Azia Yo was out.
Well, Kickow will bring that.
Yeah, he's back this week, actually. Yeah, he's back for the West game.
Billy Army Kickow.
Yeah.
Big Billy.
Did you know that Hull FC had nearly signed him before the start of last season? But he wanted so much money. That gamble would have been worth it now.
He should have played. Should have given him it. Billy Kickow as a back rower is tremendous.
Hindsight.
Absolute dominant. When you talk about strike runners, he'll absolutely rip
Well, there was no better edge strike runner in the back row in the NRL last year than Billy Kickow. He was phenomenal. I just hope he's not a one-season wonder and he can back it up.
My worry with him is fitness. And you look at his fitness record, and there's usually been a couple of breaks in each season for him. And whether
this was a medial knee injury. This one,
yeah,
did it in pre-season.
So let's see how he comes back and as I got it. But he should on the face of it, he adds an awful lot to Panthers' left edge. That said, Melbourne Storm they're just so relentless.
They're tough and resolute, and the defence was. I didn't get tested as much as I would like to have seen, but even still, you've got to give credit to what they did. They just absorbed so much pressure.
You say you didn't get tested. It's their structures and their processes that they all believe in.
And they shut everything out.
They just know exactly where they should be and when they should be.
Then you could argue, Penrith have scored 30 points in 3 games, 12 against Parramatta, 16 against Newcastle, and 2 against...
That's true.
That would suggest that something's wrong in the
But Storm have done that to every team they've played so far this season.
Storm have done that to everyone in the competition at least once, haven't they?
I don't see beyond them this year.
They are a freakishly good team, mate. And even losing Billy Slater and Cooper Cronk in the past 2 seasons, they're still right up there. Jerome Hughes at fullback looks great. Brodie Croft at 7. Cam Munster's a great player. Still got Cam Smith floating about. They've got a good pack as well, Solomona.
Asafa Solomona is unreal.
Felice Kafusi. You've got some big blokes, haven't they? Some big, scary blokes.
Yeah, and he's probably the form back row, isn't he?
Kafusi, yeah, he could present an argument. Dylan Edwards, though, poor Dylan Edwards at the back had an absolute nightmare. I feel sorry for him because I think it was round 8 where he did his... I think it was his ACL joint in his shoulder and he missed the full season.
Is he a fullback, Dylan Edwards?
Well,
is he a
I tell you what, we mentioned all fans having meltdowns. But I went on the Penrith Facebook page and looked at the full-time score and some of the comments, wow. Calm down, people, it's only round 3. People calling for Gus Gold's head, Ivan Cleary's head, saying he can't coach, the team's in disarray. The thing is with Panthers is... they're a development club. They bring so many players through their own systems, a bit like Wigan doing Super League, and they've had to let some of them go. Tyrone Peachy's gone to Gold Coast. Corey Howard-Anera's gone to the Bulldogs. So they lost some talent. You think of Matt Moylan went as well to Cronulla, didn't he? So it's finding that balance in it, keeping the right players, and obviously they've thrown stupid money at Kickow and Cleary to keep them at the club, and they've actually let other players go to comprehend that. And
so you're going to end up with slightly poorer quality in a couple of positions, aren't you?
You could argue that. You definitely could argue that on what we've seen so far.
West Bulldogs, surprise of the round.
Yeah,
West, who had won the
they did
previous
this last
team.
year though. They beat Roosters and they beat Storm in the opening 2 rounds, and then they lost the third round game when you didn't expect them to. They do it all the time. They get scalps and then they lose to teams where you think, hang on a minute, everyone had you down. Everyone was banking on you to win this game.
Bulldogs were my tip for Wooden Spoon.
Yeah.
And you look
Titans
at,
are mad.
I think Gold Coast look a good team. I mean, we'll still
they were plucky.
West and Bulldogs. I mean, Maher for now scores another try there, but
yeah.
he doesn't look fully fit for me again. And West. You talk about lacking zip. That was then. Benji went off, didn't he? Benji Marshall went off injured, and opens up an opportunity for Josh Reynolds to come in this week. This week.
But you said that with Bulldogs, have just lost Kieran Foran, haven't they, to injury as well after that game? So the injuries are creeping up. They did impress me though. I've got obviously one of my best mates is called Jed, and his mum's married to an Aussie bloke now called Martin, and he's an avid Bulldogs fan, and he came over to watch all. Anyone questioned his life choices after that, because it was actually the derby last year when we got beat, and I had a good chat with him in the pub.
I hope you told him he's not allowed to come again.
No, I did say that. Yeah, Jinx, you can stay in the pub next time. But he said the Bulldogs, they're a young team, they're a hungry team, and they will get better as time goes on. They have got some good young kids in that side, and who knows, they might end up being right.
Still don't see him making the 8.
No, I think we're talking in the future. We're talking, like in Newcastle, maybe 2-3 years of development.
Brings us on to Souths and Gold Coast, and Souths, as they have been all season, look like they're there or thereabouts. I think if anybody's going to challenge Melbourne, it'll be Souths or Roosters.
Yeah.
They're the only two I can see challenging them. Gold Coast though impressed me a little bit. I thought they played well. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Kept it nice and close.
So it's like they're going to run away with it. At one point. And we mentioned the wingers last week. Campbell Graham is 19 years old.
Again, another one who gets bigger week on week.
Exactly. How can you be that big and that good at 19? It's ridiculous.
He'll be playing Origin within a couple of years, if not potentially this year.
Is it kangaroo sticks? Is that what they feed them off?
They must feed him something.
They feed them something. That's not massive. They do inject the steaks before they give them them. It's ridiculous.
Reynolds is kicking game again though, just got him about and he
controlled it. Interesting to see that Wayne Bennett said he won't play Greg Inglis as well until he's proven he's 100% fit.
Good.
He said he won't play him with a painkilling injection. He has to play without one, so it'll be interesting to see when if he comes back into the team.
Well, he needed to lose about 10 kilos last time I saw him. If he does that, hell of a player there still. Cowboys Cronulla. Last game of the round for us.
Well, yeah, we've actually done it in wrong order. South was the last game.
Somebody in their eagerness to jump from Seagulls
from the Panthers. I want to get me Panthers right out the way first. Up the Penrith, up the Panthers. Cronulla, very impressive. I know Matt Moylan got injured, but the 167. See, I said last week or maybe a couple of weeks ago that Chad Townsend's a very underrated NRL halfback, and you didn't buy it. Trust me, he's a very good player. Underrated. Does all the little things right. And he'll get that combination with Sean Johnson. Will get better and better and better as the year goes on.
They will get better.
They've got a good roster. Cronulla. You think of Andrew Fafita. They've got obviously Jaden Briley, hooker, young kid that's come in.
Gallons last year.
There's some sentimental factors in there too. I do think they'll be a top 4 team.
Maybe. I'm not saying no. I think there's probably 4 better teams than them in the competition.
Well, you think Melbourne, South, Roosters, and then I'm struggling.
Brisbane,
too long call for me. Then again, we might see Penrith, get better as the year goes on.
Do you know? I do think
Not hope.
I do think the bolters for the second half of the year will be Newcastle.
It's all close to that origin period. The best that usually gets.
The best thing they could do as well, I think, Newcastle, is put Ponga to fullback. If they played Kalen Ponga fullback rather than 6, and maybe put Kurt Mann. Yeah, but then you're getting him on the ball more, aren't you?
Yeah, true.
You know, Matt,
you're getting him out the ball out wide a bit more as well.
Going back to the Cowboys though, the Josh Maguire signing, I mean, they've missed Taumalolo since he's been injured. But the Josh Maguire signing, I don't get, and I never got it. They threw big money at somebody who's going to play 13 when they already had the best 13 in the world.
They've lost. Obviously, Jonathan Thurston's retired now. They also lost. They obviously let Ponga go to Newcastle. They need some pivots. No, also they've lost.
Well, they didn't let him go. Newcastle threw big money at him.
Yeah, true. And he wanted to play first grade, obviously. And obviously they've lost Lachlan Coote at fullback. He's gone to sole play. They haven't got.
Yeah,
they've got too much. You're asking Michael Morgan to do too much.
The Lachlan Coote point is a really good one because he barely played, didn't he? Didn't have the last couple of years at the Cowboys. He's gone to St Helens and been reinvigorated and really played well. I tell you what, if Lachlan Coote was still at the Cowboys now, he'd be playing. Looking at that team.
Yeah.
They've got Tamari Martin playing at 6 or fullback.
He played at fullback. I did not think he was poor.
Yeah.
He was very. I only scored a try, but he was poor.
And I liken it. We were talking off there, and I liken Tamari Martin to an Isaac John who played for Wakefield and New Zealand Warriors a few years ago. In that, never, no, not very good. That sort of halfback, and Tamari Martin's that. I think until Cowboys get somebody to partner Morgan,
they'll struggle.
Yeah,
they really will.
100%.
I don't know what to say though. As far as the standard goes for the opening 3 rounds, I noticed the weather's starting to turn there. You know, it's in the late 20s now. Never mind.
It's got better week on week. Ridiculous. As the standard.
Do you know what made me laugh though? I've got a mate who was out in Australia and I was in the Northern Territory, and it's gone below 20 degrees now, and all the Aussie lads are saying it's freezing. They've all got hoodies on, and there's him in his shorts and his vest. It's like 20 degrees, lads. It's still mafting. It's amazing.
I'd love some 20 degrees right now.
I don't know, we're in top 15 yet, have we?
Right then, that's all we've got time for this week. I hope you've enjoyed Mid Pars and Shots. See you next week.
Coming up, coming up, coming up, coming up, coming up, coming up. It's there.